The sky burned red like a dying fire. Smoke rose from the shattered alien city, mixing with the dust and heat that came from the broken ground. Buildings that once reached the clouds now lay in ruins, melted and twisted like black bones. The war had ended 2 weeks ago, but the air still smelled of plasma and death. A human rescue ship hovered above the destroyed zone. Its loud engines cut through the silence as search drones flew around, scanning for signs of life. Inside the ship, Marcus Hale, a tired man in his late 30s, watched the screens carefully. His eyes were heavy, not only from sleepless nights but from memories he could not erase. Marcus had been an engineer during the Galactic War, not a soldier. He had fixed ships, built shelters, and saved lives, but he had also seen more destruction than any man should. Now, after the war ended, he volunteered for rescue missions on alien worlds. People called him the human who saves the enemy. He didn't care what they called him. He had one reason: to make the universe safer for his daughter, Lena. "Dad." A small voice came from behind him. Marcus turned. Lena, only 8 years old, stood in the doorway of the small cabin. Her dark brown hair was tied in a messy ponytail, and her big eyes looked worried. "You promised this would be the last mission." Marcus forced a smile. "It is, sweetheart. After this, we go home. I just need to check this last area. The scanner shows one life signal." Lena frowned. "But it's dangerous here. What if they're bad aliens?" Marcus knelt down and touched her cheek gently. "We don't help people because they're good or bad, Lena. We help them because we're human. Stay here, okay? Lock the door and don't open it until I come back." She nodded slowly, trusting him as always. He gave her a reassuring smile before putting on his mask and stepping outside. The city was silent except for the sound of his boots on broken glass and metal. The wind blew through the ruins, carrying the faint smell of burnt stone. Marcus moved carefully, his scanner beeping slowly in his hand. Every few meters it flashed, showing the signal growing stronger. Someone was alive here. He turned a corner and stopped. A faint voice reached him from the distance, a voice so weak it was almost carried away by the wind. "Please, have mercy. I can't walk." Marcus froze. The voice was female, soft but full of pain and fear. He followed the sound through fallen walls and rubble until he reached a half-collapsed building. There, under a piece of twisted metal, lay a figure covered in dust and blood. It was an alien woman. Her skin was a light violet color, now marked with burns and cuts. Her legs were bent at unnatural angles, her breathing shallow. Her eyes, golden and bright even through the dirt, widened in terror when she saw him. She tried to crawl away but couldn't move. Marcus slowly lowered his weapon and raised both hands. "It's okay," he said in a calm voice. "I'm not here to hurt you." She flinched, whispering something in her language, something that sounded like a prayer. Her hands trembled as she tried to shield herself. Her voice cracked as she spoke again, this time in broken English. "Please, mercy. I can't walk." Marcus stepped closer, his boots crunching on the debris. "You're safe now," he said softly. "Let me help you." The alien woman shook her head. "Humans kill. All of us." She closed her eyes as if waiting for death. Marcus sighed. He knelt beside her, carefully lifting the metal piece that trapped her leg. "Not all humans," he murmured. "Some of us still remember what mercy means." When the metal moved, she gasped in pain. Marcus quickly scanned her leg with his wrist device. It showed multiple fractures. He took out a med spray and injected a small dose near the wound. Her body relaxed slightly as the painkiller worked. "What's your name?" Marcus asked as he checked her pulse. She hesitated, then whispered, "Taraya." "Okay, Taraya," he said gently. "I'm Marcus. I'm taking you to my ship. You'll be safe there." Her golden eyes searched his face for a lie. She didn't find one. With a weak nod, she whispered, "Why, help me. You are human." Marcus looked at her, remembering his wife's face, the day she died in the war because no one came to help her. His voice was quiet but steady, because once someone begged for help too, and no one came. He lifted Taraya carefully into his arms. She was light but trembling. The heat from the burning ruins made the air shimmer around them. As he carried her through the broken streets, his communicator buzzed. "Marcus, this is command," a voice said. "Your time is up. We're pulling out. The area is unstable." "I found someone alive," Marcus replied. "I'm bringing her in." "Negative," the voice said firmly. "You're in enemy territory. Leave the survivor." "That's an order." Marcus looked down at Taraya's pale face. She was half-conscious, whispering his name as if clinging to it. He switched off the communicator. "Orders don't mean much when someone's dying," he muttered. The ground shook as another explosion erupted nearby. Dust fell from the buildings as he ran toward his ship. But a sudden sound froze him, a high-pitched mechanical whine. He looked up and saw enemy drones emerging from the clouds. The machines had detected his movement. "Hold on," he said, tightening his grip on Taraya. The drones opened fire. Blue plasma bolts streaked through the air, exploding on the ground around him. Marcus dived behind a fallen transport vehicle, shielding Taraya with his body. The blast burned his shoulder, but he didn't stop. He crawled forward, moving from one piece of cover to another. One of the drones descended lower, scanning for heat signatures. Marcus waited until it passed over him, then aimed his small EMP gun and fired. The drone sparked and fell to the ground, crashing in a burst of smoke. But two more appeared, circling like predators. "Almost there," he whispered to himself, seeing the faint light of his ship through the smoke. He sprinted the last few meters. Plasma bolts hit the ground behind him, throwing dust into the air. He reached the ship's ramp just as one of the drones fired again. The bolt hit the ground near his feet, knocking him off balance. He fell, still holding Taraya close. The ship's sensors detected the attack and automatically activated the defense shield. A bright blue barrier flared up, deflecting the next round of plasma. The drones pulled back, scanning for another target. Breathing heavily, Marcus stumbled inside. The ramp closed behind him, sealing them in. The engines roared to life as he threw the ship into manual control. Lena's voice echoed through the cabin. "Dad, what happened?" "Who is that?" Marcus looked at her from the pilot's seat, his chest rising and falling. "Someone who needs our help," he said. "Hold on tight, we're leaving." The ship lifted off, breaking through the dark clouds. Below them, the ruined city disappeared into smoke and fire. Inside the ship, the alien woman whispered weakly, "You saved me." "Human." Marcus didn't answer right away. He just looked ahead at the sky turning blue again. Then he said softly, "No, Taraya, you saved me too. You just don't know it yet." As the ship rose higher, Lena quietly walked toward the alien woman. Her small hands trembled, but she placed a blanket over Taraya's body. "Don't worry," she said in her gentle voice. "My dad always keeps his promises." Taraya looked at the little girl, her eyes filling with tears. For the first time since the war, she didn't see humans as monsters. She saw kindness, warmth, hope. Outside the window, the stars began to shine again. But far behind them, in the red clouds, the remaining drones reactivated and started tracking the human ship. The war might have ended, but for Marcus, Taraya, and Lena, a new fight was just beginning. The rescue ship shook as it entered the upper atmosphere. Sparks flew from damaged panels and red warning lights blinked across the control board. Marcus Hale gripped the controls tightly, sweat running down his forehead. Smoke filled the cabin and alarms screamed, but he didn't care. All that mattered was keeping his ship steady and keeping Taraya alive. The alien woman lay on a stretcher beside the pilot's seat. Her breathing was slow, her purple skin pale. She whispered something in her language, then slipped into unconsciousness. Marcus glanced at her and then at his daughter Lena, who sat quietly with wide eyes hugging her small blanket. "Is she going to die, Dad?" Lena asked softly. Marcus didn't answer right away. He looked at the cracked monitor showing enemy drones still chasing them. "Not if I can help it," he said finally. "Hang on." He pulled a lever, sending the ship into a steep dive through thick clouds. The drones fired plasma bolts, but the heat signature disappeared in the storm. For a few seconds, everything went silent except the thunder outside. When the danger passed, Marcus guided the ship toward an abandoned human outpost hidden in the mountains below. It was small, half buried in ice and rock, but it was safe for now. The ship landed roughly on the frozen ground. The ramp opened with a hiss. Cold wind rushed inside, but Marcus didn't wait. He lifted Taraya into his arms again, her body light as air. Lena followed behind, carrying a small medical bag. Inside the outpost, the lights flickered on. Dust covered everything, but the old medbay still worked. Marcus gently placed Taraya on a bed and began scanning her wounds. The screen showed fractures, burns, and dehydration. He injected her with antibiotics and bone stabilizers, working fast. As he bandaged her leg, Lena stood beside him, whispering, "She looks scared, even when she's sleeping." Marcus paused. "She's been through a lot, Lena. People she trusted probably hurt her. War changes everyone. Then why are we helping her?" Lena asked. He smiled faintly, his tired eyes softening. Because if we don't help others, we become like the ones who started the war. That's not what your mom would want. At the mention of her mother, Lena looked down. She remembered the stories her father told. The brave medic who died trying to save soldiers on both sides. Maybe that's why Marcus couldn't leave this alien woman behind. He saw his wife in every life that needed saving. Hours passed. The storm outside grew stronger, shaking the walls. Marcus sat near the bed, watching Taraya breathe. He could see the faint scars on her neck, signs of torture. It made his chest tighten. No one deserved that. Suddenly, the radio crackled. A cold voice came through. Marcus Hale, this is Command Outpost E7. You're violating interspecies aid protocols. Return to base immediately. Marcus leaned closer to the transmitter. I found a living being. She needs medical help. Your mission was to rescue humans, not enemies, the voice replied. Do not interfere with alien survivors. He clenched his jaw. She's not a soldier. She's a medic. That's irrelevant, Command said sharply. If you don't comply, you'll be charged with treason. Marcus stared at the radio, then turned it off without a word. He wasn't going to argue with people who had forgotten compassion. Taraya stirred weakly, her golden eyes opening for a moment. You disobeyed them. For me? Yes, he said quietly. You needed help. That's all that matters. She tried to smile, but tears rolled down her face. No human ever said that before. Outside, the wind howled through the mountains. The night was long and cold. But inside that small outpost, something warm began to grow. A fragile connection between two worlds that once hated each other. Marcus leaned back in his chair, exhausted. Lena curled up beside him and whispered, You think she'll walk again? Marcus looked at Taraya, her broken legs wrapped in silver healing cloth. Maybe, he said softly. And when she does, she'll walk toward a better future. One we build together. Outside the window, a faint light glimmered in the dark sky, another ship scanning the area. Marcus stood, his hand on his weapon. Their fight wasn't over yet. But this time he wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for hope. Morning light crept through the cracks of the old outpost. Snow fell gently outside, covering the scars of war. Marcus Hale woke up to the soft hum of machines. He turned toward the medical bed. Taraya was still there, breathing steadily. Her violet skin looked a little warmer now, her wounds slowly healing. He stood up and checked the monitors. Temperature normal. Pulse steady, he whispered. You're getting better. From behind him, Lena yawned and rubbed her eyes. Did she wake up, Dad? Not yet, sweetheart, Marcus replied, placing a hand on her shoulder. But soon, Lena smiled sleepily. Can we give her breakfast when she does? Marcus chuckled softly. If we have any left after your appetite. The small moment of peace didn't last long. The radar began to beep. Marcus rushed to the control panel. On the screen, 3 human gunships appeared, approaching fast. He knew that sound. Command had found him. Dad, Lena's voice trembled. Are they here to help us? Marcus's face hardened. No, they're here for her. He grabbed his communicator, but before he could speak, the radio crackled to life. Marcus Hale, this is Commander Brixen. You are ordered to surrender the alien immediately. You are harboring an enemy combatant. Comply or face arrest. Marcus stared at the radio for a long moment. His hand shook slightly, but his voice was calm. She's not an enemy, Commander. She's a medic. She saved lives, maybe even ours. Enough, Brixen snapped. That creature doesn't belong in human territory. We're landing in 5 minutes. Don't make this worse. The signal ended. Marcus looked toward the bed. Taraya's eyes were open now. She had heard everything. Her golden gaze was full of fear and sadness. They'll kill me, she whispered. Your people always finish what the war started. Marcus knelt beside her, gripping her hand. Not while I'm here. I promise to protect you. You'll lose everything, she said weakly. He smiled faintly. I already did. Now I'm just trying to do what's right. 5 minutes later, the thunder of engines filled the air. The door of the outpost burst open and armed soldiers poured in, their rifles glowing blue. Snow and wind swirled around them. Marcus stood in front of Taraya's bed, shielding her with his body. Lena clung to his leg, eyes wide. The lead soldier raised his weapon. Step aside, Hale. No. The commander himself entered, his silver armor shining under the cold light. Marcus, don't do this. She's not one of us. Marcus's voice was steady. Neither was my wife, Commander. She was half human, half Venari. The same kind of people you called enemy. She died saving soldiers on both sides. This woman deserves that same mercy. The commander hesitated, the weight of Marcus's words cutting through the silence. The soldiers looked uncertain. Some lowered their guns slightly. Then Lena stepped forward, holding Tiraya's hand. "She's my friend," she said softly. "She's nice. Please don't hurt her." The room fell quiet. Even the wind seemed to pause. Tiraya looked up at the small girl and whispered, "You're not afraid of me?" Lena shook her head. "You're not scary. You're just sad." Commander Brixton's eyes softened. He took a slow breath, then signaled his men to stand down. "You always were a stubborn man, Hale," he said quietly. "Fine, she lives. But you take full responsibility." Marcus nodded. "Gladly." Hours later, the gunships left. The outpost was quiet again. Snow covered the ground like a white blanket. Tiraya sat beside the window, wrapped in a thick coat. Her new cyber-healing legs shimmered faintly with blue light. She turned to Marcus and said, "I don't understand your people. You fight, you destroy, but then you show mercy." Marcus smiled tiredly. "That's what makes us human. We break things, but we also fix them." Lena laughed nearby, feeding a small drone that hovered like a pet bird. Tiraya watched the child's joy, tears glimmering in her golden eyes. "You risked everything for me," she said softly. "Why?" Marcus looked out at the rising sun. "Because peace has to start somewhere. Maybe it starts here, with us." Tiraya reached out her hand and Marcus took it. In that cold, silent world, a fragile bond formed, one built not on blood or race but on compassion. Outside, the wind carried away the smoke of war. Above them, the sky turned blue again, as if the universe itself was ready to heal. And somewhere deep inside, humanity shone a little brighter. Snowstorms swept across the mountains for days. Inside the outpost, Marcus Hale worked tirelessly to repair a transmitter that would finally let him contact human command. The small screen blinked with static, then flickered alive for a few seconds before dying again. Beside him, Tiraya adjusted a medical unit. Her hands moved with quiet focus and her new legs glowed softly with every step. Lena sat nearby, humming to herself as she played with a tiny repair drone Marcus had built for her. It almost felt peaceful. Almost. Then one morning, the radio crackled. "Outpost 49, identify yourself," came a sharp male voice. Marcus froze. "This is Engineer Marcus Hale," he said slowly. "Survivor from Sector 7. A pause followed. Then the voice returned, and colder now. "Marcus Hale, you've been off-grid for 41 days. Reports say you're harboring alien survivors. Confirm immediately." Marcus's hands tightened around the microphone. His eyes flicked to Tiraya, who stood silently in the doorway. "Yes," he said finally. "They needed help. I couldn't just leave them." Static filled the line for a few seconds. Then came the reply, "You're in violation of military law. A retrieval unit is being dispatched. Stand down and prepare for questioning." The signal ended. Lena looked scared. "Dad, are they coming to take her away?" Marcus exhaled slowly. "They'll have to get through me first." 2 hours later, thunder rolled across the valley, not from a storm but from approaching aircraft. 3 human ships appeared in the distance, their lights cutting through the snow. Tiraya turned toward Marcus. "You could still save yourself," she said quietly. "Say I forced you to help me." "They'll believe it." He shook his head. "That's not who I am." "But your daughter, she deserves a world where mercy isn't punished," Marcus interrupted. His eyes burned with determination. "That starts today." The ships landed near the outpost. Armed soldiers stepped out, spreading across the snow. Their commander, the same Brixton who had once spared Tiraya, walked forward, his armor shining beneath the pale sky. "Marcus," Brixton called, "you made a mistake. Hand over the aliens and we'll forget this ever happened." Marcus stepped out of the doorway, snow crunching under his boots. "No," he said calmly. "They're not enemies. They're refugees. The soldiers raised their weapons. We can't risk another war," Brixton said, his voice firm. "Their kind—" Tiraya stepped forward, her breath visible in the cold air. "My kind wants the same thing you do, Commander. A home. A chance to live without fear." Brixton looked at her for a long moment. The old hatred in his eyes was fading, replaced by confusion, maybe even respect. Then another sound broke the tension. The hum of alien engines. Everyone turned. From the clouds above, two alien ships descended, their guns aimed at the humans below. Marcus's heart sank. No, not now. A message played over the loudspeaker, translated by the outpost system. This is the Terran Medical Corps. We are retrieving our people. Do not interfere. The human soldiers tightened formation, preparing for a fight. Brixen shouted, "Stand down! Nobody fires unless I give the order." Tariah looked at Marcus. If they attack, more will die. Marcus clenched his fists. Then let's stop it before it starts. He walked into the open snowfield between both sides, lifting a broken flagpole that once bore the symbol of the Galactic Union. He planted it in the ground between them and shouted, "Enough! The war is over. You're standing here ready to kill again for what? Pride? Fear?" His voice echoed through the cold air. Everyone watched. Even the alien ships hesitated, their weapons flickering. Marcus pointed toward Tariah. "That woman saved my child's life. She healed human wounds with alien hands. If that's not peace, then what is? Silence." Then, slowly, Commander Brixen lowered his weapon. "You're right," he said quietly. "Maybe peace doesn't come from orders. Maybe it starts with people like you." The alien captain did the same. One by one, the soldiers followed. As the tension melted away, the two ships powered down. Snow fell softly between the humans and aliens, no longer a battlefield, but a beginning. Tariah stepped beside Marcus, her golden eyes glimmering. "You stopped a war," she whispered. Marcus shook his head. "No, we just reminded them what it means to be alive." Lena ran out and grabbed both their hands. "Does this mean we can all be friends now?" Marcus smiled faintly. "It means we can try." Above them, the suns broke through the clouds, shining over the mountains, a light bright enough for two worlds to share. Snow slowly melted around the old outpost as the suns rose higher each day. Weeks had passed since the soldiers left. The world outside was still scarred by war, but inside the small shelter something new was taking shape. Life. Tariah stood near the window, her new legs glowing faintly beneath the bandages. She took one slow step, then another. Her balance was shaky, but she was walking again. Marcus watched from the workshop doorway, a faint smile on his face. "You're getting stronger," he said. Tariah nodded, breathing hard. "Your machines. They work well." "Not machines," Marcus replied, handing her a glass of water. "Hope. I built them with what was left from the wreckage. Hope and stubbornness." She laughed softly. The first time Marcus had ever heard her laugh. It was quiet, fragile, but real. Lena clapped her hands and ran up to hug her. "You did it. You can walk." Tariah looked down at the little girl, uncertain. "You are not afraid anymore?" Lena grinned. "I never was." "Dad says everyone deserves a second chance." That line stayed in Tariah's heart. No one in her life had ever said those words before. On her planet, mercy was seen as weakness. Strength was measured by how much one could destroy, not by how much one could protect. But these humans, they were different. Days turned into nights. Marcus began repairing the outpost's communication system, hoping to contact nearby human settlements. Tariah helped him, using her medical knowledge to stabilize the wounded who sometimes wandered in. They worked side by side, one human, one alien, trying to rebuild what war had broken. One evening, while fixing a broken transmitter, Tariah spoke softly. "Why did you fight us?" Marcus looked up. "Because we were told you were monsters." "And you?" She hesitated. "Because we were told the same." Their eyes met, both realizing how many lies had been told to keep them enemies. Suddenly, the radar beeped. Marcus rushed to check. A distress signal flashed on the screen, not human but alien. The coordinates showed a crashed vessel nearby. Tariah's heart skipped a beat. "My people," she whispered. "They might be alive." Marcus hesitated. "If they find you with me, they might think you're a traitor." "I still have to go," she said firmly. "They are my kin." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then I'm coming with you." They set out at dawn. The air was cold and silent, snow crunching under their boots. After a few miles, smoke appeared on the horizon. The alien ship was half buried in the ice, engines still steaming. As they approached, figures moved inside. Tall, silver-skinned aliens, armed and alert. When they saw Marcus, their weapons lifted instantly. One of them shouted in their language, "Human!" "Step back!" Taraya stepped forward quickly, raising her hands. Wait, he's with me! The aliens froze in shock. One of them recognized her. Taraya, we thought you were dead. She smiled weakly. I almost was, but this human saved me. The soldiers looked confused, their eyes darting between her and Marcus. One hissed, You trust him? Yes, she said simply. Because he trusted me first. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the alien captain lowered his weapon. Then maybe. This war truly is over. Marcus extended his hand slowly. The alien looked at it, then took it. The handshake was silent but powerful. As they returned to the outpost that night, Taraya watched the stars glittering above. Your people and mine. Maybe we can heal, she said. Marcus smiled. Maybe peace just needed someone brave enough to start it. Lena waved from the window as they approached, her laughter echoing through the cold air. Taraya smiled back. No longer a survivor or a soldier, but a part of something greater. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like an alien. She felt home.